Hello and good day, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube. This is my third video um, on this channel for um, biblical teachings. Um, and I wanted to go over a chapter in Deuteronomy 30, because a lot of times we as believers try to figure out, well, it's our job to try to figure out how all this is going to play out in the future, eschatology. And a lot of it he's made pretty easy for us by, he says that he's told us the end from the beginning. So in the beginning, he told us how it was going to be in the end time, or later on. And so I think Deuteronomy chapter 30 is one of those chapters that covers that information. So I wanted to start with, I wanted to go through that chapter and let's see what we can get out of it. So I have a reader. So we're going to start with chapter 30, verse 1.
Now it shall come to pass, when all these things come upon you, the blessings and the curse which I have set before you, and you call them to mind among all the nations where the Lord your God drives you.
Okay, so now it starts off saying, "Now it shall come to pass." So it's already referencing something that will, the Lord is already referencing something that um, he's spoken prior. He's talking about Deuteronomy 28 when he said that he was going to curse them. He laid out, so this is right before they go into the promised land, right before Moses dies, and the Lord is reminding them, yo, it's important to keep these commandments that I gave you. And he's talking about the commandments that he gave them right when they came out of Egypt at the bottom of the mountain. He's talking about the commandments that he told them, that he gave them all through the 40 years in the wilderness. The commandments in Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. He's talking about all the commandments, and he's saying, and he's telling them, you gotta keep all of them. None of them are um, disposable. And so he's telling them, it shall come to pass when well, he already told them, if you keep my commandments, I will bless you, and you will be the head of all the nations on the earth. But then he also said, but if you do not keep my commandments, I will curse you, and you will be at the bottom of all the nations on the earth. And all the nations on the earth will use you, will destroy you. He said, I will scatter you throughout all the nations as slaves, and you'll go in ships to all these nations. So he's telling them he's going to do all these things to them, and so he's talking, and so this chapter 28 of Deuteronomy is talking about the blessings and the cursings. If you obey me, I will bless you in this fashion. And did they obey him? Yeah, they obeyed him for a little while. So for a little while, they were the head of all the nations. He blessed them in that fashion. But did they disobey him? Did he have to scatter them to the? Did he have to kick them out the land? Yes, he had to kick them out the land. Did he have to scatter them to the nations? Yes, he had to scatter them to the nations in ships, just like he said, and they would be slaves. And so this is Deuteronomy 30, um, referencing back to that. So he said, and it shall come to pass. You still say I don't read that over again?
when all these things come upon you, the blessings and the curse which I have set before you.
Okay, stop. So, and it shall come to pass that when all these things have come, so they went through the blessings, they jacked up, they started to worship other gods, then they had to go through the cursings. So, and now it shall come to pass after you've gone through both, the good and the bad. Please read.
And you call them to mind among all the nations where the Lord your God drives you.
Okay, yes. And so, now he's saying, now while you're in the nations that I drove you to because of your disobedience, you're going to call all this back to mind. You're going to remember all these things. You're going to remember the blessings. You're going to remember the curses that I put on you. You're going to remember that I told you that you would go to slavery in ships and you would be scattered to all the nations. You're going to remember those things. You're going to remember that I said that you will work the land but you won't reap the harvest. You're going to remember that I told you that you will build a house but you won't live in it. You're going to remember that I told you that you'll have children and they'll be taken from you. You won't get to enjoy them. You'll be sold into slavery. No one will buy you, meaning you won't have any kinsman redeemer. Nobody will come and redeem you out of your situation. And so he's saying that all these things are going to come to your memory. So you're going to start connecting the dots. You're going to look back to his commandments, look back to his cursing, and you're going to look at all the different cursings that he put on his people. One of the cursings was you're going to forget who you were. You're going to forget that who your God was, that you were the people. You're going to forget all that. And so now he's saying, it's going to come to pass that while you're in these nations that I scatter you to, you're going to look back at what I told you I was going to do to you, because it's still written in the book. You're going to connect the dots. You're going to remember who you are. And so this is what he's talking about. Please continue.
And you return to the Lord your God and obey his voice, according to all that I command you today, you and your children.
So now he's saying, after you remember who you are, while you're still in the lands that I sent you to, you haven't come back to the promised land. So while you're still in the nations that you've been scattered to, you're going to remember who you are, and you're going to come back. You're going to go back to him, go back to his statutes, his laws, his commandments. And he's saying, go back to the ones that I commanded you this day. So he's talking about all the stuff that he commanded us throughout the wilderness, all the stuff he commanded us to do at the base of the mountain. He's talking about the stuff that he commanded us to do back then. We're going to go back to that. So back then, he commanded us to keep Saturday, the seventh day, as the Sabbath. The seventh day. We're going to go back to that. Back then, he commanded us not to eat swine's flesh. We're going to go back to that. We believe that we don't have to go back to those laws, but what's the word I'm looking for? He foretells the end from the beginning. So in the beginning, he told what was going to happen in the end time. And this is what we're looking at right now. So in the beginning, he says, we're going to go back to keeping the Sabbath. We're going to go back to not eating swine's flesh. We're going to go back to keeping all the dietary laws. If an animal attacks and kills another animal, you can't eat that animal. It's unclean, even if it was supposed to be a clean animal. Excuse me. You can't go eat it. If a person hits a beast on the road, if a car hits a beast, you can't eat that beast. We can't eat roadkill. You can't eat anything strangled. Anything that's been torn apart by another animal, can't do it. So this is what he's saying. We're going to return back to him, to his commandments. Keep going.
With all your heart and with all your soul. that the Lord your God will bring you back from captivity and have compassion on you, and gather you again from all the nations where the Lord your God has scattered you.
Okay. So now he's saying, once we return back to him, and some laws, it's a law that some things cannot be done outside of the land. So, for example, sacrificing. Sacrificing is not. It can only be done in the land or at the temple with the Levites, the original sons of Aaron bloodline. That's 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 where sacrificing. That's how it has to be done. Um, um, Peace offering, burnt offering, um, all of it. The offerings, the sacrificings, they all have to be done in the land at the temple with the Kohanim, with the sons of Aaron. So those we can return back to the laws, but we can't return back to that as long as we're away from the laws. But he's saying, once we return back to that, to the laws, he's going to gather us up from all the areas that he had scattered us to. Could you read that again, please?
And gather you again from all the nations where the Lord your God has scattered you.
Yes. So he's taking credit for scattering us. Slavery, being put in ships, being scattered to the nations. He's taking credit for that. He's saying, I did it to you. I did it to you because you stopped obeying me. But it's going to come to a time where you're going to recognize who you are. You're going to start to obey me again, and I'm going to gather you back from those places. Please continue.
If any of you are driven out to the farthest parts under heaven, from there the Lord will gather you. From there the Lord your God will gather you, and from there he will bring you. Then the Lord your God will bring you to the land which your fathers possessed.
Okay. So, he's saying, he told us he would scatter us to the furthest areas. So now he's saying, if anyone has been scattered to the furthest areas, which he said he was going to do, he's saying that from those areas, he's going to go and get us and bring us back. Please continue.
And you shall possess it. He will prosper you and multiply you more than your fathers.
Okay. So he's saying he's going to bring us back to the land that he gave to our fathers. And we're going to possess that land that he gave to our fathers. And we're going to be more prosperous and, did it say multiply?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be more prosperous and have more kids than our fathers did. Now keep in mind, back when we originally got into the land, we were a nation that the men had multiple wives. I mean, it started with Israel. It started with Jacob, and then it just continued. So that nation grew to be such a big nation so fast because one man would have many kids by multiple women. So now he's saying he's going to bring us back to that land. We're going to have the same laws that governed us back then, but we're going to be more numerous. We're going to multiply more so over our fathers that were there originally. And that's his blessing for us. Having a lot of kids is a blessing. It's not a curse. So when he brings us back to the land and gives it to us as our possession, the land that he gave to our fathers, He's going to cause us to multiply in greater numbers than when he calls our fathers to multiply. Please continue.
And the Lord your God will circumcise your heart and the hearts of your descendants.
Here we go. This is interesting. So, after we have returned back to his laws, his statutes, his commandments, his judgments, he's going to, and we're going to repent. We will repent. Like, we believe that we can say, oh well, we weren't. I didn't do it. I wasn't the one who did that. I wasn't there. I didn't do it. And so we believe that we can just say that, and that gives us amnesty from the guilt. Not the case. We have to repent and then return back to his laws. And when he sees that we have repented and turned back to his laws, he's going to have mercy on us and bring us back into the land. He's going to bring us back into the land, allow us, bless us to multiply more than our forefathers did. And after we've done all this, it says, then he's going to circumcise our hearts and our children's hearts. So, until our hearts get circumcised, we'll still have wicked hearts. We'll still want to do, or maybe not want to do, but wicked thoughts will still come across our minds. We won't be doing them. We'll be living righteously and ruling over that the spirit of the firstborn. We'll be ruling over that spirit, but at the end of the day, it will still be there. It will, until he circumcises our hearts. Then once he circumcises our hearts, then we'll get to the point where we don't have to do those sin offerings anymore. But once we get back to the land and that temple goes back up, we're going to be doing the sin offerings again. Until he circumcises our hearts. Please continue.
To love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, that you may live. Also, the Lord your God will put all these curses on your enemies and on...
Okay, please hold on. So now, he's saying, the cursings that he put on you because you disobeyed him, the cursings that he put on us because we disobeyed him. He said he's going to cause us to go into slavery, and our enemies would take us into slavery and would rule over us. Now he's saying he's going to cause that stuff, those curses, to happen to our enemies. So now he's saying he's going to cause them to go into servitude to Israel, to the ones that were sent into servitude to them, is going to get flipped back around, and they're going to get the ones that were the servants are going to become the masters, and the ones that were the masters are going to become the servants. And if you question, like, if you need a second witness, we have Revelations 13:10. Let's hear what Revelations 13:10 have to say about it.
He who leads into captivity shall go into captivity. He who kills with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints.
There you have it. So he's saying the one who led into captivity will have to go into captivity. and the one who killed with the sword is going to be killed by the sword. Um, Go back and read the one in Deuteronomy.
Also, the Lord your God will put all the curses on your enemies and on those who hate you and persecuted you.
Okay, so those two verses are confirming each other. Um, when he brings us back, there's a lot of enemies out there who hated us, who tried to oppress us, try to keep us down, even try to deny this truth as it's coming out. And at the end of the day, that's not going to get you anywhere. This ball has already been started in motion, and this motion has already started, and it's not going to stop. He told it in the beginning how it was going to be in the end, and every part of it thus far has been accurate. There's no stopping it. It's going to happen. So, at the end of the day, no matter what you call yourself, Christian, Messianic, it doesn't matter. You could be Islam, you could be Buddhist, you could be Hindu. You need to line up with these scriptures. Bottom line, it don't matter what you are, what you think you are. Line up with the word, because it's going to happen. It's going down. The ball has already been set in motion, and you line up with it, or you suffer the consequences. Bottom line. No, there's no apologizing. There's no need for. I mean to say, you line up with it, and you can promote these scriptures without apology. But at the end of the day, this is what's going to happen. What he said will happen. What he said was going to happen in our past, but in the future from when he said it, has happened. It's in the past now, and the stuff that he said was going to happen in our future, from where we are now, is going to happen. It's in our future, and it will soon be in our past. Is there more?
And you will again obey the voice of the Lord and do all his commandments which I command you today.
So, he's saying, and again we will obey the voice of the Lord and do all the commandments which he commanded us back then. The commandments he commanded us back then before he came and died and resurrected are the same commandments without change that he's saying we are going to do again.
The Lord your God will make you abound in all the work of your hand, in the fruit of your body, in the increase of your livestock, and in the produce of your land for good.
Beautiful. So he's saying he's going to cause us to abound, to be very abundant in the works of our hands. So things you do with your hands, you're going to be able to do it better, in larger volumes, and with more accuracy. It's going to be better all the way around. And he already said he's going to bless your seed and make you more numerous than your fathers. He's repeating that. You're going to be more abundant in your seed. You're going to have more kids, and your kids are going to have more kids. That's a blessing, not a curse. What was the other one? Oh, even your animals. Your animals are going to be abundant. They're going to have kids, and their kids are going to have more kids. That's a blessing, not a curse. Even with your produce, when you plant a seed, it's going to yield manyfold. It's going to be very abundant. The harvest is going to be great. When it's time for you to harvest your crops, he's going to bless us. Continue, please.
For the Lord will again rejoice over you for good, as he rejoiced over your fathers.
Beautiful. So, is saying he's going to rejoice over us. Again, he's going to rejoice over us. like He did our fathers. He's going to rejoice over us for good. And that's all He wants to do anyways. He wants to show His greatness by making us a great nation, or making Israel a great nation, and rejoice over us, rejoice over Israel, rejoice over His people, His children, that keep His word, that keep His laws, statutes, and commandments. There's no room for, oh, we don't have to do it now because Messiah did it, or Messiah is the end of the law. No. He told the end from the beginning, and in the beginning, when He told the end, He said we were still going to be keeping the law at the end time, when He said it in the beginning. So, at the end of the day, we're still keeping the same law. Messiah didn't put an end to it. He's the end of it because it points to Him. You get underneath these laws, these scriptures, and it shows you Messiah. It leads you to Him. He is the end of it. But you still continue in it. Please continue.
If you obey the voice of the Lord your God, to keep His commandments and His statutes, which are written in the book of the law, and if you turn to the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul.
So, now He's going back and reiterating to us, keep the law. Keep the law, the statutes, and commandments with everything you have, with all your vigor, with all your energy, with all your heart, your soul, with all your mind. You want to get creative and think of a creative way to keep it? Do that. There's no law against how much you could keep these laws. But at the end of the day, He's letting us know, look, stick to these laws. I don't want to have to curse you. I don't want to have to bring bad things upon you. Is there more? Okay.
For this commandment which I command you today, it is not too mysterious for you, nor is it far off.
So, a lot of people like to say, oh, well, He had to change the law. He had to change the law because it was too hard for us. The Jews are Judaizers. They have to Judaize. No. He's saying right here, it's not too hard for you. It's not too far from you. It's not too mysterious from you. This law I gave you is near to you. Please continue.
It is not in heaven that you should say, who will ascend into heaven for us and bring it to us that we may hear it and do it.
Keep going.
Nor is it beyond the sea that you should say, who will go over the sea for us and bring it to us that we may hear it and do it.
Okay. So He's saying right here, look, I'm giving you this law. I'm giving it to you. I'm placing it here with you. I'm not leaving it over here, and so you could be like, oh, it's in heaven. We got to send somebody to go get it out of heaven. They can bring it to us and show it to us so we can do it. He's not saying that. He just said that's not what's happening. It's not way over here so you can send somebody to go get it and they can bring it to you and teach you so you can do it. No. It's not too hard for you. It's very near to you. He's saying you can do it. You can do it. Okay, please read.
But the word is very near you, in your mouth and in your heart, that you may do it. See, I have set before you today life and good, death and evil.
Okay. So, back then, He was reminding us, after He gave us the whole, obey me, I got you. Disobey me, I got you bad. I'm gonna do you wrong if you disobey me. After He gave us that whole rundown, He told us how it was going to play out. And so now we're in that time frame where it's playing out. But now, he's saying, like just to wrap it all up, he's saying, look, I'm giving you life and death. Choose life. He's like, look, this is not far. It's not hard for you. He said it's in your heart already. It's near you. It's in your heart. Back then, he said that. Before Messiah's death, burial, resurrection, before Messiah's sacrifice, he said it's in your heart. Now that Messiah has done it for us, how much more so should it be in our hearts now to keep these commandments? If it was in our hearts back then, bottom line, these same commandments that he's speaking about in Deuteronomy are the same one that he's saying we're going to keep in the future from now. So at the end of the day, learn these commandments. Learn them and keep them. Keep on.
In that I command you today to love the Lord your God, to walk in his ways, and to keep his commandments, his statutes and his judgments, that you may live and multiply, and the Lord your God will bless you in the land which you go to possess. But if your heart turns away so that you do not hear, and are drawn away, and worship other gods, and serve them, I announce you today that you shall surely perish. You shall not prolong your days in the land which you cross over the Jordan to go in and possess.
So he gave her a little recap. Look, I told you how it was going to go. When you guys get there, it's going to go bad. But if it does go bad, I'm going to bring you back. I'm going to bring you back. And I'm going to do you good. But you're going to return. You're going to repent, and you're going to turn back to me, and then I'm going to bring you back. And then I'm going to prosper you. I'm going to rejoice over you. But then when he gives his recap, he lets us know this is not too hard for you. So everybody who says, "Oh, the Jews, they couldn't keep it because it was too hard for them," no. He's saying it wasn't too hard for you. The reason you couldn't keep it, the reason is because you didn't want to keep it, because he's far from us. You don't want to obey God. You want to obey man. You want to obey Satan. You want to obey everything else, your own mind. Everything else but God. That's what's in us, is to just be disobedient to God. Every other theory, every concept that goes against the word sounds plausible. That may be true. No. If it goes against the word, it's not true. I don't care if it calls itself science. It's not science. It's lions. That's all they're doing is lying. So at the end of the day, what he's saying, he's recapping, and he's saying, yo, choose life. I'm putting before you life and death. You can choose life or you can choose death, but I want you to choose life. And so at the end of the day, I'm telling you guys out there, everybody out there, choose life. Choose keeping his laws, his statutes, and his commandments. Choose that, because that's life. And that's it. I hope you liked the video. If you do like it, please like, subscribe, and share it. And if you're feeling generous, I'm gonna leave the link to my GoFundMe at the bottom of the page, and hopefully you donate. Have a good day, ladies and gentlemen.